At the beginning of the month, the probability of a Fed rate cut for July started out to be about 40%, but quickly shot up to over 80% with the everlasting trade war debate. With no new information about next week's Fed cut or the outcome of the critical G20 meeting where the fate of the U.S. trade war might be decided, or not, the market meandered and went flatline. If July comes with a rate cut, maybe things will be fine. But if July comes without a rate cut, maybe things won't be fine. Let's take a look. Today we're going to look at two charts, beginning with the 6-month daily on the spiders, the SPY, the close on Friday, 289.26. And as you can see here, we pretty much went sideways for most of the week, basically waiting for what the Fed's going to do. Looking here at the MAC did continue on up, both the fast line and the slow line, but they're both near that zero line, so they're not too hot and they're not too cold. Looking at the histogram, a little bit of a rollover here, not too significant. Moving down into the price rate of change, and this also near the zero line, moving on up, but again, it really is not too hot, not too cold, so it's just temperate. Moving here into the RSI at a 65.74 rate, that's decently strong, but again, like the histogram, a little bit of a rollover. This may portend for some selling into next week, but really the news is about whether or not the Fed is going to cut rates and how the market sees that. Stochastics looks pretty much like the other oscillators. The volume right here is heading down. That's not a real good sign, but it's not significantly negative at this point in time. And then moving here into the Williams, pretty much like everything else, particularly the stochastics, and it looks like it may roll over here a little bit, indicating a bit of selling into next week. Going back up here to the price chart, you really can see that pretty much nothing happened this week. Everybody is waiting for the Fed. Let's go to the weekly chart. And we're here at the 2-year weekly chart on the spiders, and you can see the bottom at that point there, either the end of May or beginning of June, depending upon which way you lean. Now, we moved off of that bottom all the way up here, which was a pretty quick run into the current level here, and pretty much based on expectations of the Fed cutting rates. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens. We may have to wait into July for that. So, right now, it looks like we've got a run on up, but the problem that I see is right now, the fast line hasn't moved through the slow line, and that's one of the indicators that I'm waiting for. That's one of my favorite indicators along with price rate of change. But the fast line did take a 90-degree turn, more or less, headed on up, but it's consistent with the slow line right now and hasn't broken through. So I want to see what happens into next week and then the week after for sure. That's going to give us a better idea. But for now, I think the market is waffling based on expectations of a rate cut in June, but most likely coming in July. The probability is about 80%, as I indicated in the lead-in. Moving here into the histogram, pretty much shows the same thing. We're going to see a lot of echoing of that vacillating market right now, just on the fence line, waiting to see what happens. You can see that here, price rate of change, just head sideways. Again, fast line hasn't moved above the slow line. So I'm going to wait for that to happen before it really tells me there's a change in sentiment. Relative strength at 58.31, so hovering around that midline. Same thing here with stochastics, a pretty sharp turn up in late May into the current week, but still fast line below the slow line. Volume looks fine, and then the Williams pretty much had that reaction move off of the bottom there in late May up to the current level. We're not in overbought territory. We're in that kind of mid area, and so nothing is really screaming out to me that the market is going one way or another. It's on the fence line. So back on up here into the price chart. And I think, unfortunately, we're really just going to have to wait and see where the market does go once it picks a trend, and we'll know much better because the heartbeat will pick back up again. Right now, it's just kind of flatlined. So hopefully next week will bring more news for us to talk about. And for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.